Since 1994 there were no free elections in Belarus. 18 years already there were no elections which were accepted by democratic society. Belarus is situated in the center of Europe. There is 18 years of dictatorship of Lukashenko. Blood of thousands of people is on the hands of dictatorial regime. Wonderful country in the center of Europe turned into concentration camp. How could European Union make a dialogue with Lukashenko, which we can compare only with Hitler and Stalin? From our Belarusian people, we make an appeal to European politics. Only cruel sanctions and stopping of all kind of communication with Belarusian dictator could really help our fight for freedom. Boycott to Lukashenko. Freedom to Belarus.
We should do what we can to assist the democratic forces of Belarus, but also the democratic forces elsewhere. And that is also why the neighborhood programs are so important, both those going to the east and also those going to the southern part. And we have seen the Arab Spring, we have seen young people giving their lives. And we must do what we can from the EU's point of view to support civil society, but also to create opportunities. And that is also why we hope to open trade negotiations with Tunisia during the Danish presidency, so that we can in many ways support the new possibilities, the new chance of democracy, the spring we saw in Northern Africa. Because one must understand this is fragile. If we do not support the democratic forces, they may lose. Therefore, we have an obligation and also a great opportunity as the EU to do that. Addressing the questions on Belarus and also on Ukraine, the Danish presidency will support the efforts already underway, both by Mrs. Ashton and also by Mr. Van Rompuy and the Commission in this regard. There is a very firm commitment from the Danish presidency to support democratic reform. That goes for Belarus and that goes for Ukraine. Of course, the foreign policy part of the EU work is very much so in the hands of Mrs. Ashton, and to some extent also to Mr. Van Rompuy and Mr. Barroso. But there can be no doubt about it that we would like to see reform and democracy be playing a much stronger role in both Ukraine and also Belarus. That is needed, and that is what we hope will happen in our Europe.